It's garbage pickup day today. They're coming by.
Yes, the different sounds of the COVID-19 generation.
Thank you all for joining us. We're going to get started in about a minute here. Going to wait for a few more to join. So we'll get started shortly. Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I know there's some attendees trickling in here, but I'll kick things off. My name is Ann Sari. I am with the Converged user group team. I wanted to thank everyone for joining us today for the Converged Community Hour. I wanted to share a couple quick housekeeping items just before we get started. We wanted to share a little bit about the Community Hour series. The purpose of the series is really to bring members together virtually. We usually connect during industry conferences, and we figured this Community Hour series was a great way to connect with members on an ongoing basis. So we're hosting these every other Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern, and it's really based on a variety of topics. So it's important for us to hear from the community what you're interested in hearing about. So please make sure to share any future topic ideas with us. If you've missed any of the previous community hours, they are posted on our website under the resources page. And we also have a new blog post up there, so you might want to go check that out. And if you are not familiar with the Converged user group, we are a customer-led community, and our goal is to connect members who are using or exploring Dell converged and hyper-converged solutions. So as our guest today, we do want to ask you to please use the Q&A function for any questions, and also the chat function to discuss with your peers. We want to make sure that this is interactive, we get your questions answered, so please join the conversation. As I mentioned, we will be doing a survey to get your feedback, so anything you can share with us for future topics would be greatly appreciated. We'll have a poll toward the end of today's presentation, and just to let you know, all participants will be entered into a drawing to win some prizes. So make sure you share your feedback for a chance to win and help plan future events. So with that, I will pass it over to David Giesecke to start the program. David.
Thank you, Ann, and welcome everybody. Welcome back to another Converged Community Hour. For those of you who have seen our webcast before, you'll know that I'm David Giesica. I'm with the Converged user group, and usually I have a co-host, Jonathan Toulon, or JT, who is also the president of the Converged user group. He is on assignment today, so you're stuck with me by myself. But I have two fantastic special guests. I've got Shannon Champion, Director of Product Marketing at Dell Technologies, and Suzanne Pickett, Director of Infrastructure Product Acceleration, and also the CTO of Infrastructure Platform Engineering at Dell Technologies. Suzanne is a Converged user group board member. Dell is a giant customer of Dell Technologies CI and HCI. So Suzanne has been long-time board involvement, and now she is Dell on Dell, so to speak. Thank you very much, ladies, for joining. I'm really excited about this. It is an odd time of the year because we are not traveling and we haven't been traveling, but we do have VMworld coming up next week. And with that, we've got all sorts of exciting news, and we're very fortunate to have Shannon Champion, who will give our members a special preview as to all things Dell Technologies CI and HCI that should be on your radar for next week. Shannon, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I think there's so much stuff that you even brought a few slides.
I am the director of product marketing, so marketing brings slides.
All right.
I would have much preferred to have this conversation with you all in a bar somewhere at the actual VMworld, but it is virtual this year, and the silver lining there is that you can all go to VMworld. You don't have to travel anywhere. You can go sign up for free. So hopefully I will see you virtually at the event next week. From a CI and HCI perspective, the top three things I wanted to call out that we are announcing are, from a VxRail perspective, we actually had a blog post and an announcement last week tied to VMware. So you may have seen some press coverage. We have a lot of attention in this space on VMware Tanzu on VxRail and our continued commitment to synchronous software releases with VxRail. I'll talk a little bit more about the VMware Tanzu on VxRail because we have kind of a Kubernetes cloud native focus on our conversation here today. But the other updates from a VxRail perspective tied to VxRail 7.0.100 pull in the latest from vSphere and vSAN 7U1. And some of those, there's a lot of advancements that VxRail is inheriting and pulling into that seamless lifecycle management approach that we have, which you know as if you're a VxRail user. But some of the new enhancements from a vSphere and vSAN perspective to call out, first is HCI Mesh, which is an example of the storage efficiency enhancement there. So that enables you to share storage resources across clusters. So especially for those of you that have larger VxRail deployments, if you to scale storage, you don't have to add a new node. With HCI Mesh, you can, running low in capacity in one cluster, you can utilize spare capacity from another cluster. So that's pretty big for some of our bigger customers as a capability. And you also may have heard of VxRail ACE, which we are now calling the Software as a Service multi-cluster management capability. It's part of the VxRail HCI system software. And with that, you can take advantage of the predictive capacity analysis that tracks your capacity across all of your clusters. So using that in tandem with HCI Mesh helps you kind of figure out how to best optimize your storage efficiency there. And a couple other new features for vSAN particularly is a compression only option. So you may know in the past, compression deduplication always went together. So now with the compression only option, you can take advantage of that space efficiency for more demanding workloads that maybe couldn't perform well or take advantage of deduplication. And let's see, some new file services capabilities introduced in vSAN 7 U1, and vSAN 7 actually support NFS, and you can use Kerberos-based authentication, Microsoft Active Directory, and some additional security features there. So VxRail, I mentioned, is inheriting all of that goodness. We're doing it synchronously with VMware, meaning at availability from VMware, VxRail has that capability within 30 days. And switching to VCF for a second, VCF 4.1 is the latest version that picks up vSphere 7 U1. And we're making that available on VxRail 7.0.100. The VCF on VxRail is also known as Dell Tech Cloud Platform. Hopefully we've said that enough times that it resonates. One of the new things I want to point out from a VCF perspective is that there's now support for remote cluster management. So you can extend that VCF operational capability and efficiency and have a centralized management capability of remote locations. So that's sort of bringing to life that promise of consistent infrastructure and operations from cloud all the way to edge. So from a Tanzu perspective, I'll get in a second.
I see VBlock on there.
Yeah, that was number one. All of that was number one. So number two is, we know not all customers are on the vSphere 7 train yet. So we continue to make enhancements to the HCI system software for pre-vSphere 7 customers on VxRail. And a couple examples of that is, we're always trying to pull more. I think if you attended a session with Chad Dunn, he's talking about, how can we extend that ecosystem of lifecycle management and pull more into it. So Intel Optane persistent memory DIMMs are now part of the automated lifecycle management experience for VxRail. And we have an automated node power on feature for cluster setup. So we're continuing to make enhancements on that software side. And then the third is really related to VxBlock 1000. So we are now supporting the newest NSXT, which is version 3, for new VxBlock 1000 systems. NSXT, you may know, network virtualization and security for software-defined data center on VxBlock. So we're always working on the VxBlock side too, to build in the latest VMware hybrid cloud options and give you the ability to leverage that in that 3-tiered VxBlock architecture. Some of you that have VxBlock are wondering, okay, when do I get the capability of NSXT 3.0? So for existing VxBlock 3.5, 7, 1000 systems, that option is planned for Q4, along with vSphere 7 availability for both new and existing VxBlocks. And at that time, we'll also have a new vSAN-based advanced management platform. So you have multi-system, multi-site management in a vSAN-based system. So there's quite a bit. I jammed a lot into the top 3 things. But with that, I think
we're going to drill down a little bit. Yeah, I think so. That's great. So I think we've got a slide for Tanzu, or maybe 2 even. Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Tell us what we need to know.
All right. So really at the highest level, what I wanted to focus on is, the paths to Tanzu, and we'll do that next. But regardless of the path to Tanzu on VxRail, there's really 3 main values that we see. First is that we are helping accelerate the adoption of Kubernetes infrastructure. So we're helping to automate the deployment, the provisioning, and really accelerating developer productivity, which hopefully we'll talk a little bit more about today. Which is the essence of what VMware is trying to do with Tanzu, and really bringing that to life with VxRail, with all the value that we deliver there. And then from a scalability perspective, you can add new nodes, you can respond as an IT provider, IT operator, you can respond to your developers' requests and add new nodes within 15 minutes to the cluster. The second element is around rapid evolution. Two parts to that rapid evolution. One, I mentioned synchronous release, 30 days. So, as VMware makes enhancements to Tanzu, we're going to bring it to life on VxRail within 30 days. But the other piece of that is the lifecycle management, the continuously validated states that we help our customers stay in and upgrade seamlessly from release to release really helps that rapid evolution of the latest and greatest. And then last, we like to call it K8's Your Way. And really what we're doing is providing customers with a choice of how they get to Kubernetes, because customers are, you guys can tell me, but like on all different phases of their journey in terms of what their operating model is, what level of expertise they might have in-house, their scale requirements for Kubernetes, and a number of factors. So we have a range of offerings. We're going to talk about those offerings.
Yep, we're going to talk about it. There it is, VMware Tanzu on VxRail.
Yeah, so there's three main deployment options for VMware Tanzu on VxRail. And again, this gives you choice. We're the first and only to offer this breadth of Tanzu infrastructure deployment options. I'm sure others will catch up, but right now we have, for those of you that are looking for developing on a validated platform as a service or container as a service system, we have Tanzu architecture for VxRail. So it was previously known as Pivotal Ready Architecture. So really the only thing new here is its name, but it's still purpose-built, validated, mature, tested reference architecture built on VxRail. And we partner very tightly with VMware on that. So that's the first approach. The second is vSphere with Tanzu on VxRail. And that's really the essence of a lot of the news from the last week, is that you no longer need a full VCF deployment to get to Kubernetes. So this is being coined by VMware as the fastest way to get started with Kubernetes workloads. And it's really best for those of you that may want to rapidly deploy Tanzu in production, maybe are looking for kind of a test bed. In addition, this option gives you network flexibility. So for Kubernetes at scale, you need software-defined networking. And with vSphere with Tanzu, you bring your own SDN. So it gives you that flexibility to do that. Or maybe you're just not looking for that full hybrid cloud operating model. So that's the vSphere with Tanzu on VxRail option. And then the last is VCF with Tanzu on VxRail. So this, again, is our Dell Tech Cloud platform. It's the full Monty, if you will, right? Turnkey, fully integrated, secure hybrid cloud platform. And that's really best for customers that are looking for the most complete solution. You get hybrid cloud to support traditional VMs and cloud native on the same platform. You have all the software-defined networking and security built into the package. It creates that common management model for both developers and IT administrators to bring them together. So it's really the most simple, direct path to Kubernetes at scale.
Fantastic, but it's not all about announcements. I think, if I think about VMworld, one of the big things is the breakout sessions and certainly the show floor. You put together a cheat sheet for the CI and the HCI stuff that people should have on their radar next week. Can you walk us through that, please?
Hey, David.
Sure.
I don't want to interrupt, and Shannon, and we can continue on this slide, but there are a couple questions I think reference the previous slide that we were just on. And I was wondering if maybe we should pause and take a look at those, because
yes.
I think we did cover them on this slide, but I want to make sure the questions were answered, unless you'd prefer to wait to Q&A time.
Thank you, co-host Suzanne Pickett. You're keeping me honest.
My job here is done.
All right, so let's see here. I'm looking at the Q&A now that it's been brought to my attention. We've got 3 questions in here, which is fantastic. One is, when we say Tanzu on rail, is that part of VCF on rail or just straight Tanzu deployment on rail? So let's start with that one, but it also flows into, I think, do we need?
Sorry, David, I think you cut out
You just
a little
muted
bit.
yourself, but I'll answer them. Hi, Josh. Thanks for joining. I think I may have answered them after you put the question in, but I'm just going to reiterate based on the options that are here. The one in the middle is a straight Tanzu deployment on VxRail. And the one on the right is the one that requires VCF. And from an NSXT perspective, to run Tanzu, not required. And the vSphere with Tanzu gives you the flexibility to bring that or not. VCF with Tanzu on VxRail comes integrated in part of the package.
Thanks, Shannon, for confirming.
Fantastic.
I felt we had answered those questions with this slide, but I wanted to make sure that that message didn't get lost and that Josh had his questions answered. So thank you for doing that.
All right, fantastic. And then we've got a question from Edwin Castellanos. But that kind of rolls into my follow-on question that I had planned for Shannon. So we can either bubble that up or we can talk about the sessions and then we'll hit Edwin's question. Up to you, Shannon.
We'll get to Edwin. Let me just hit the highlights for the show and then we'll open it up for all questions and we'll start with his.
Fantastic.
So there's a lot on this slide. I have really good eyesight and I can't really see everything that's here. So I'm going to walk you through it. And Dave promised to send this to you with all the hyperlinks afterward anyway. So don't worry about actually reading it. From the top perspective, we did a CUBE interview. We also had a blog that I mentioned that is live. You can go check out, and we will do a press release next week. So there will be plenty of news. There already is some out there. From a session perspective, there is what's new with VxRail. You'll see some of this content in there. From a VMworld perspective, we're doing a VDI with VCF on VxRail session, as well as a deep dive on VCF on VxRail with the DTCP tech deep dive, an overview session on VCF on VxRail, the session that says deploying VMware NSXT and traditional data center infrastructure is a VxBlock with NSXT based session. And then there's a telco cloud based session too. So lots of good sessions. Again, they're all free. You can go check them out. They're hyperlinks, so hopefully easy for you guys to find. We have lots of, we have fun in marketing, creating all kinds of videos and webinars. And if you know anything about my team, they're very creative and really focused on making these fun to consume. So there's several listed here. Some focus on Tanzu, some focus more on workloads, specific call out. And then from an experience perspective, we have the interactive demos, the hands-on labs, test drives, lots of fun new content for you to check out from an asset perspective. But I really want to call out that we have some fun augmented reality and 3D type experiences that you can do right on your mobile app. So when you get the PDF, maybe you can just go to the bottom left and look in that section. But there's lots of goodness packed into here.
Yeah, those from the years past. I think last year, maybe we saw a glimpse of it 2 years ago on the show floor. It was really cool when you got those tablets and then you pointed them at the little things that were on the VxRail demos, and all of a sudden you had the AR pop up. So this is pretty cool that it's gotten to the point where people can do it on their individual devices. That's going to be fun. Great stuff. Great stuff. To follow on, you know, this Edwin's question here is the question that always pops up. The users and members of the user group, by and large, already own this equipment, whether it's VxRail, VxBlock. So all of these new announcements are fantastic, but the question comes up is how quickly can I get this onto my existing? What will it take, and what can I do there? It's neat to see, you know, your point 2 up above was the lifecycle management. So extending all the things for the people that aren't moving on to the, you know, the vSphere 7 yet. Can talk about that. What can folks get here? He's looking for, you know, what's the upgrade path from Brownfield 4.7.x to 7x? Please share.
Okay, will do. It's a great question, and I'm sure it's one that many of you have. So thank you for being courageous to ask it, Edwin. First, I would point out for the, you know, the option that's on the left, the reference architecture, you can always build it on VxRail with the Tanzu architecture for VxRail. But if you want that integrated experience, what you're asking is, as a current VxRail user, can you get vSphere with Tanzu on VxRail? The answer is yes. So the way you do that is you upgrade to VxRail 7.0.1 from a software perspective, and that comes with the Tanzu capability in the code, but you need to activate it by purchasing the subscription to turn it on. So yes, good news. You can leverage it with your existing infrastructure if you upgrade to 7.0.1. From a VCF perspective, it's the upgrade path from VCF 3.9 to VCF 4.0 and 4.1 is on the roadmap, not yet available.
Great. Well, thank you. And then just to clean up the Q&A right now, but keep them coming, please. Joshua David's asking about Calico, which is a cat.
Yeah, I don't know what Calico is other than a really pretty type of cat.
All right. So if you've got more clarity that you can share with us, Joshua, we'll appreciate that, but we'll be watching the Q&A. And so this is fantastic, Shannon. Thanks for all those updates. Suzanne, I'd like to, oh, okay, wait a minute. We've got something.
Yes. So I think if the question is, do I have to use NSXT if I want to do software-defined networking? When you have vSphere with Tanzu on VxRail, you can bring whatever software-defined networking that you want. Obviously, within VCF, built in is NSXT.
Perfect. All right, cleaned up there. So to pivot, Shannon, that was fantastic. You can drink some coffee, wet your whistle, take a breath, a break for a little bit here. I'd like to pivot to Suzanne, who, Suzanne, I think a couple of years ago, we were on local road shows on the West Coast, and you were talking to members about the really cool things you were doing with Kubernetes, and that was 2 years ago. Why is this exciting, and what should members be thinking about? What can you share?
Sure. Well, I think everyone, all of our customers, including inside Dell Digital, we're being asked to deliver faster, right? People want to provision more quickly. They want it on demand. They want containers. They want functions serverless, or an operating system. Whatever it is that they want it faster. And waiting through normal provisioning cycles, or sitting in a queue somewhere through whatever service desk you have, or waiting someone to kind of take that waterfall approach to getting something that they want right now, that total instant gratification. One of the things that we really see with these offerings is the ability to automate a lot and eliminate a lot of those manual tasks and queue wait times. So you can build and automate infrastructure as a service and start delivering those resources, compute and storage and networking, which is really all of our customers need, the people want from us. They just want some combination of that. And they can do it more quickly without IT really being in the way. And so some of these offerings, and I'm really excited to hear more about the predictive capacity planning and modeling, because really, especially in a hyper-converged world, that's one of those things that becomes a little bit trickier, because we can use it as compute, we can use it as storage, And so how does that affect some of our capacity planning? So we have that on demand, so our developers or our customers or our business units can get what they want faster. So a couple years ago, and has it been a couple years already, David, because time's going very quickly.
Yep.
Really what was so innovative at the time is that we took a very traditional infrastructure team, and they were focusing on vSphere and setting up traditional clusters in a very secure, governed, compliant environment. But we also had developers, and those developers wanted what they wanted, and they wanted it now. And so we said, oh, okay, we've heard about this DevOps thing. We've heard about software-defined data centers. Let's go ahead and reach out and talk to them, which is sometimes the most difficult thing. It's not the technology. And let's work with them and figure out what they need. And building that out on VxRail with Kubernetes and really reducing and getting IT out of the way and enabling this product team, if you will, this DevOps product team to deliver much faster, much quicker. They could spin up a VM, they could spin up a container as they wanted to. And it was a combination of really vSphere prior to Tanzu. Tanzu was just coming out with Kubernetes on VxRail. And if we needed to add capacity, we could do that at smaller increments, at smaller scales. So it wasn't the big budgeting exercise that anyone needed. But the real secret sauce there was infrastructure as code, infrastructure as a service, being consumed by upstream teams, leveraging Kubernetes in their tool chain to automate a lot of the manual tasks that just didn't need to be manual anymore, not because of the technology became available. So being able to deliver something within 20 minutes versus say 12 weeks, now we're starting to get those wins and we can start to see the benefits. And you as engineers or developers or architects, now you can start spending your time on more value-added activities like more automation. And it just starts building on everything that you're doing. So you kick off one piece of automation and you go work on the next and the next. And you're not having to spin your wheels on a lot of those manual tasks. So without going into details, that was pretty much the gist of the story. It's a great story. I love to tell it. And we're doing that at a much larger scale also inside Dell. And it's really fun to work at this hyperscale level.
Very cool. You talk about hyperscale. I don't remember if you shared the size of your VxRail deployment that you're working with.
Well, I have the numbers from yesterday. I'm not sure what they are today. It grows very quickly. We do have over 1,000 nodes today and about 48 petabytes in our software-defined storage offerings. So it's not small. And it just, as I said, it just grows and scales every day because we are optimizing, we are automating, and we are making it easier for our lines of business to ask for things and develop new capabilities based on that technology.
It's really cool. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Shannon, you don't just sit in a marketing silo in an ivory tower. You actually go out there and encourage your folks and your team to go talk to customers, listen to customers. What are you hearing from customers?
Well, we are social distancing, so it is between the screen talking to customers, but yes, we still do talk to customers. But what we're paying attention to, in addition to what we're hearing from customers, is what some of the market leaders are saying. And recently, IDC put out their FutureScape report, and there's some really interesting things in there for consideration. The first is that I think they're looking out to 2025, which in an IT world, a lot can change in between now and then. 4.5 years ago, VxRail didn't exist, but still, by 2025, 90% of new applications will be developed using cloud native approaches. That's almost all of them. And further, they expect that 2/3 of enterprises will be prolific software producers, and code will be deployed on a daily basis. So if you're, you know, an IT operator, architect, engineer, you might start to get some heart palpitations thinking about developers asking you for something and deploying code every single day. But that is the future that is being painted for us in terms of where this is going. So I think that's pretty amazing. I think another thing that we saw in that study is that they predict 500 million applications by 2024. And 500 million applications is the same number that has been created over the last 40 years. So just another sort of data point around the acceleration and explosion that is to be here. So I think it's good kind of food for thought for customers to just kind of give a gut check, like where are we along that path? If that is the future, will we be ready? Do we have a plan for how we're gonna get there? And I think some technologies like what I talked about today with Tanzu on VxRail, we are seeing those trends. So we're trying to figure out, to Suzanne's point, how can we build more intelligence, more automation into the infrastructure and give those as tools to folks who will need to be supporting the developers in the future.
That's great.
Thanks, Shannon.
David, sorry, do you have a poll ready?
Go ahead.
Do you have a poll ready?
So, yeah, I would like to say I have a poll ready, but I think I don't quite know the limitations of Zoom, so I didn't plan ahead enough. I thought I did, but I didn't. So the window was closed. That said, we do have a chat window, so I would love to hear from folks as to whether they think that their infrastructure is at a point to handle this, or Suzanne, you've got a better way to probably to lay it out. But we can, I think what you're asking is, can we get some questions to the audience, and would they like to participate? So I'd love to ask the audience what they think about this. And Suzanne, why don't you, what's your first question?
Well, my first question, and I'm just really curious, and how many people on the call are using Kubernetes today, and maybe how far along are you? Are you maybe just like 5–10% looking at it, playing with it, starting to learn, or are you farther down the path in terms of where your teams are? Do you have fully developed teams focusing on automation and orchestration? So I guess just maybe if anyone wants to pop some comments in the chat, that might be a great way to do it, or quite open to however anyone wants to feed us information. I'm just trying to get an idea. Joe says he's not using yet, just starting.
Okay,
Interesting, that's good.
Michael Kearns is playing with it, researching it. Rodney's not started anything with it yet. So that's good. Anybody like beyond fully automated and they've got Skynet set up? Well, as we're getting this in, I always roll back to this, and JT realize, it comes down to the technology oftentimes is easy when you're running an IT shop. Suzanne, what did you run into? What was the experience when you said to your infrastructure folks, hey, we should reach out to the developers? Hey, we should try to maybe adopt something that they're used to using. Can you talk about that? Was it interesting?
Oh, yeah, it still is, actually. I think it's just one of those ongoing things, especially for those of us who have an engineering background. We might be a little more introverted than others. And so sometimes we get very focused on delivering our thing, our piece of technology, our slice of the pie. And it becomes a little bit us and them. And we can see this kind of evolve. I mean, even with the beginning of virtualization, if you guys can remember back that far, before we had VMware, as we started to talk about, let's virtualize a server, that was crazy talk. Then we started talking about virtualizing storage, more crazy talk, networking. Oh, that was off the rails. And now we're breaking down the walls and the silos of these more traditional kind of data center centric roles. And outside of that, we're working with developers and our software folks and business lines of business and other units. And so it's just one more step that we're doing and kind of blending this, becoming more balanced in how we deliver a lot of the services that we offer as IT. So we say infrastructure as a service, but that can mean so many different things. Really, what we're focusing on is, hey, let's open up a little bit and let people consume infrastructure as code. And that way they consume it in a way that works best for them. And yes, there are operational governance, compliance, security, capacity considerations that you have there. But you build a little bit of a framework for someone to operate in safely, and then let them go. And sometimes we need to sit alongside and say, hey, how do I extend or have you push or pull from an API out of Tanzu and kind of cross the bridge into some of the other tool chains that our development teams use or our database teams, all of that. So a lot of it just comes down to conversation, and it's never easy. Change is hard. We all know that. But if you can just get a win, if you can just focus on one thing and say, okay, I'm going to create a service catalog that includes delivering a database as a service on top of an operating system, or maybe a couple flavors of operating systems. You've just eliminated a ton of manual work right there. And now that becomes the golden standard for how you do it. And as I said, you kind of iterate on top of that and just keep building and building and get through the next hurdle. Things like certificates, right? I mean, just to be very tactical and logistical, because we've all been there. But you can do it, and it's just one thing at a time, and take that next step and that next step.
Fantastic. Shannon, thoughts?
Well, I think I wanted to react to, I mean, Suzanne, obviously she's living it, she's spot on. So I have no reactions to that. It's consistent with what we hear. But I wanted to react to the chat that Sarah had put in, really talking about, being a small nonprofit. She has needs that she knows will be addressed nicely with containers, like moving to a new financial system, but can't do the serverless yet because they need to update SQL. So, and has a team of 2. So a lot of challenges that are common, actually, whether you're a nonprofit or not. But the thing that's I wanted to kind of hone in on is the fact that to get to 90% of applications being developed with cloud native is like, you're going to go on a journey. The majority of your applications are the legacy applications, and those legacy applications are running your business. They're mission critical. So what VMware is trying to do with Tanzu is to have a common infrastructure that can support both, so that you can decide over time how you refactor and move those legacy applications to cloud native, and it's not as disruptive to your business. So, and I, failed to kind of point that out earlier, and I thought that would be a good thing to point out based on her comment.
Thank you, Shannon. Great point.
That is a good point. I just reading through while Shannon was talking, I was reading through the chats as well, and it sounds for the majority as if everyone's kind of at the beginning of their transformation journey in this particular case. Maybe looking at Tanzu or Kubernetes and what it can do. I have to tell you guys, it is pretty cool just from an engineering perspective, right? What it can do, and there are so many opportunities. VMworld is going to be an awesome place to go learn and network and hear more about this stuff. So I can't encourage you enough to just really look at some of those sessions that Shannon had up there, because you're gonna hear about this a lot. And it's, you know, I happen to manage a team that comes from a more traditional space. And as I was getting to know them last month for the first time, I asked them, I said, hey, have you guys started down this path, or do you know? And their response to me, and fully transparent here, was, what is Kubernetes? I said, okay, hey, this is great. We can talk about a lot of the opportunities in terms of you know, where the VMware focus and the Dell Technologies family focus, and how we can leverage something like this to make our lives better, make it easier. Because it's not just to make the developers' lives easier, it's to make our lives easier too. Delivering this stuff faster and more consistently. And by the way, when you're consistent, you have much fewer incidents and downtime. So there's just so many benefits to something like this. And so Kubernetes and learning opportunities are out there, right? Even there's stuff everywhere for you to consume, YouTube videos. And like I said, VMware is just a really good opportunity to hear more.
Yeah, I'll plug for the user group there, because I think one of the things is, particularly with the Converge user group, you may join the Converge user group and think that you're trying to go down an IT transformation journey by yourself. And then you start talking to other members and you realize you're not by yourself. And you might have a realization like JT did back when he first got involved with the user group. Wow, I wish I knew about this a couple of years ago, so that I wouldn't have felt like I was on my own on this journey. I think that we have a great opportunity, and if the members want to see more, this might be something more that we could help figure out. Okay, well, where are our members on this journey? What would they like to see, and what might be beneficial? And then we can take it upon ourselves to go out and deliver some sort of help, some support, some network. So folks, please, if these are topics that you want to learn more about, or if you have questions, reach out to member services, hit us in the chat. Please do let us know, because we'd love to figure out how we can better serve the membership. So yeah, I think we've got time for maybe one more question, and then we want to wrap so that it's a community hour, but we want to give people a little time back.
True. And I just want to shout out to Jim, who called out that he remembers the beginning of virtualization too, so I didn't feel so old by myself. So thanks, Jim. Appreciate that. I also want to offer, you know, hey, I'm out there on LinkedIn as well. So if anyone wants to shout out, reach out, and just talk through some stuff, let me know. I can literally talk about technology all day long. It's what I like to do. So
that's fantastic.
Find me social media.
Shannon, you're all set. Okay, fantastic. Well, let's see here. Just double checking the chat. Make sure we're not leaving anything behind. I think we're good. So I will now ask if Ann is out there. Ann, are you out there?
I'm here. Well, thank you everyone for joining. And I think it's a really good transition what you were just speaking about, because during today's community hour, all members received an email about our annual member survey. So please check your inbox for that email. And as David mentioned, we really want to know what your needs are. What are your challenges? How can the Converge user group be the best resource for you? It will take you less than 5 minutes to complete it, and you'll also be in a drawing to win a $250 Amazon gift card. So we hope, you know, something on your Amazon wish list will soon come true. But again, thank you for joining us. We'll circulate the helpful guide for VMworld next week, and we appreciate you being a part of the community. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for the great engagement,
Suzanne,
everyone.
thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all for attending. Thanks for the time, and enjoy VMworld next week.
Yes.
Thank you all.